Welcome, young and old, gay and straight, married, single, bisexual, transgender, welcome. People of all colors, cultures, and abilities, welcome. Noisy, wiggly babies and children of all ages, welcome. Rich and poor, powerful and weak, believers and questioners and questioning believers, welcome. Welcome, all you who seek God's graceful, open-hearted love and the beautiful new world that love makes possible. Welcome to Brentwood Christian Church.
In the Bible, there's a lot of talk about grace, and Jesus talks about grace, and John the Baptist talks about grace. And grace is, I define grace as getting something that you don't really deserve. And I've been graced before when people have given me things that I didn't deserve. And so every now and then I like to try to do that for others. So let me tell you about the two rowdy boys that joined my perfect classroom late into the semester this last December. They are talkative, they are disruptive, they don't raise their hand to talk, they get out of their seats when they're not supposed to, they come up to my desk when they're not supposed to, they wear their masks underneath their nose like they're not supposed to. And this was a perfect class. I mean, it got kind of crowded, it got kind of full, but it was a beautiful class of well-behaved students who all got along, who were incredibly courteous and kind and polite and attentive. It really was the perfect class. Then the two rowdy boys joined, and they wreaked havoc on my stress level at the end of the day. Oh, that's the other thing. The class is at the end of the day. And I used to enjoy the sweetness of that class at the very end of the day. So my stress level grew and grew to the point where I was yelling at the kids. I was not making good decisions on how I dealt with them. And it was just ruining the end of my day. Well, then the boys tried out for basketball. And because we don't have enough boys for the basketball team, everybody made the basketball team. But their grades were in the tank. And they wanted to be able to play a game. And so their coach, who is wonderful, had them make the rounds to their teachers to see what they could do to bring up their grades. And frankly, it was too late to bring up their grades. There was nothing that they could do to bring up their grades. However, since I've been teaching during this pandemic, we have something that we call fudge points. And we can give students some fudge points. And so the only way that these two boys were going to be able to play basketball was if I did something with their grades. And so I gave them each some fudge points, and they passed the class, and so they were going to be able to play in the game. And let me tell you, those two boys were incredibly grateful. They turned into these sweet, kind students who thanked me over and over again for what I did. That's grace, giving people something they don't deserve. Now, I'm not saying this to make myself look good, but I'm saying this because I realized that part of the problem with the rowdy boys was not their rowdiness, but the way I was dealing with it. And so when school starts up in January, we're going to have even more kids who are coming back to seated classroom. I'm going to relax. And if they get up out of their seat, I'm going to talk to them and take into measure all the things that you need to do when students are disruptive, but I'm going to calm down because I've been graced before. Like I said, been given things that I didn't deserve. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try. I'm going to do it. So I hope that this new year gives you lots and lots of grace, and that you are able in turn to share that grace with others, because that's what Jesus was all about, and God continues to give us grace upon grace upon grace upon grace. It just never ends. So until we can get together again, remember, God is with us in the morning when the sun comes up. God is with us during the day when we run and jump and play. God is with us at night when we close our eyes to sleep. God is always with us. And God is always with you, and God's grace is always with you. Love you lots. Bye.
Good morning. So for this, the 10th day of Christmas, we thought that perhaps it would be a good opportunity for us to talk about the gifts that have been given through this church, even in the midst of what has arguably been probably one of the most dismal years that a lot of us have experienced. At least collectively, I would say, probably collectively as a nation, this has been a pretty as a world, not even a nation, as the world, this has been a pretty dismal year. But even in the midst of that, there have been examples of the great generosity and love and the capacity for those things that people have. And we just wanted to express some of those things to you, Brentwood Christian Church, as a way of saying thanks for all that you have done in the midst of this pandemic. So.
Yeah, it's been an incredibly hard year, and I'm so glad to be able to say goodbye to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken a toll on everybody, one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
and for so many reasons, But I have, in the midst of all the struggle, in the midst of all the hardship, the loss and the grief, which has been felt by everyone,
Mm-hmm.
one way, shape, or form, there has been an incredible degree of goodness and love expressed. It reminds me of what Mr. Rogers said that one time, like,
Mm-hmm.
when bad things happen, how do you make sense of that? And Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen those people time and again step up. We've seen it locally with folks here at Brentwood. I mean,
Yes.
in the earliest days of the pandemic, I remember, I think the last thing our church had in 2020 before we went entirely online was the concert.
Right, with Tuskegee, the
Yeah.
choir, Golden Voices choir from Tuskegee University.
Yeah, it was super powerful. In fact, we had the signs ready to put on the all around the church that said, wash hands, don't shake hands. And we were, getting ready to know things were going to be different.
Yeah.
But we had no idea that even that coming Sunday we would be
Right.
online for the rest of the year and,
Right.
and then into even 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so something that also happened though around that time, it was a really cold part of the year. And there were all kinds of immediate problems because the warming centers, whenever it's below freezing, no longer could they operate as normal because of COVID restrictions
Mm-hmm.
in terms of social distancing. And so people were trying to scramble to figure out, well, how do we manage this? East Sunshine Church of Christ and Grace United Methodist do incredible
Yeah,
work in our community.
they do.
I mean, all of our hats should be off to the work that they do in the spirit of Christ. It's unbelievable how much shelter and care and compassion and hospitality they offer our unsheltered friends and neighbors. But in COVID times, it was really hard. And in those early days, we were all trying to figure out how is this spreading, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so churches were asked, will you step up? And our church stepped up. And it's one of those things that we just kind of all did.
Yeah.
Just because it felt right. And in retrospect, we knew it was the right thing to do. It just came together so quickly that everybody was scrambling.
Yeah.
And what amazed me in the middle of that was like, we didn't do any kind of long-term visioning. Should we do this? Should we not do this? How are we going to? It was just people with big hearts stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
And we sent out lots of emails. So we apologize for all those emails and contacts that we made, trying to get volunteers. And the overwhelming number of people from Brentwood who stepped up and said, yeah, I'll take a shift. I've never done this kind of thing before, but I'll take a shift.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning of the pandemic, when we all knew things were different, we wondered, how can we help?
Mm-hmm.
I was so encouraged just by the people of Brentwood.
Yes. Well, and we really started pushing the need to increase some of our benevolence giving. And so we issued a couple calls to people in the congregation just to, if you're able to give a little extra, knowing that a lot of people were feeling the economic impact of this. But if people were able to give any extra, we were going to create a benevolence fund that would be available for what we knew would be a large increase in needs. We have a really small like where you and I can receive a phone call from someone and we have a small amount of money that we can that's undesignated as far as benevolence goes. So if someone calls with a need, we can give it. But that runs out pretty quickly. And this church has just been so generous donating money to that fund so that we've not had to turn people away. We've been able to help keep people in housing. I know we've used some of that money to help get people into housing. So it's been put to good use. And people can still give to that fund if they want to, because we know that that the need is going to continue. We know that there's the moratorium on evictions is ending, and so there are going to be needs that continue to arise over the before this pandemic is over. And so that's just been wonderful too, to just see the generosity that you all have shared in monetary gifts.
It's been incredible, and one of the things that continues to be a reality in Springfield, like there are a lot of great nonprofits that try to do really important work, and they do phenomenal work.
For sure.
But even that's not enough.
Yeah, the need is so great.
Yeah,
it's greater than our ability to meet it at this point. Yeah.
The rate of poverty in Springfield is off the charts high. It's like twice the rate of poverty in the state of Missouri, and the nonprofits in our community, they are constantly trying to do the best that they can. And they always are needing more help, more volunteers, more funding, more resources. And that we can be pastors of a church that are able to help with that, I feel very grateful for that, because you all as a congregation step up financially. A lot of you step up with volunteering, advocacy, and we can't say thanks enough for that. Right. Over the course of 2020, it amazed me how much people believed in living out the mission of Brentwood, even during the pandemic. So we have the little catchphrase, we were trying to build community, justice, and love. And those are all really important to who we are as Brentwood. And they kind of are intended to describe what we're about, in a nutshell. And in the midst of the hardest times and the hardest year we will likely ever experience, you all stepped up to the plate and believed in the importance of helping people find community in times in which we were so separated from one another, and helping people find access to resources whenever so much justice had been denied, and in terms of helping people experience love. And to see you believe in the mission of Brentwood even through this hard year is just so incredibly encouraging. That and this is, Emily and I talked a lot about this over the course of the last year. A lot of churches were really struggling with whether or not they needed to open their doors in terms of having worship. They were struggling with matters related to church budgets and all those kinds of things, and how they continue programs and ministries. You all did what I thought was just absolutely incredible, and I don't know how, really. It's just a serendipitous kind of event. But you all as a congregation did something that very few of our colleagues have seen happen.
Right.
One, step up in giving so that we can continue our programs, and as Emily mentioned, benevolence needs, rising above and beyond in ways we never had before. You did that all while not trying to rush anybody back into worshiping in person, which is an unhealthy, unsafe environment and not a good way to love neighbor. A lot of churches were starting to feel desperate and panic that they were not going to be able to meet their budget. So, let's meet in person for worship and try to raise the offering. And that is not healthy. It's not helpful. It's harmful. And that you all were able to continue to do so much in terms of reaching out, as well as just being responsible. I don't remember one time during that whole pandemic year of 2020 where people were rude or antagonistic.
Never.
Saying, let's get back to work.
And that is not true. That is not true about a lot of churches.
100%.
We have so many colleagues who have been, quite frankly, abused by members of their congregation because they weren't wanting to open the doors and meet in person. I mean, just really treated terribly because of that decision. And that has not happened once with the people at Brentwood. I mean, I just feel extraordinarily fortunate
Absolutely.
to serve this congregation.
Absolutely, right on. All of us have wanted to be back together in person.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, everybody.
Yes.
But no one has been rude or uncompassionate.
We've all expressed our sadness that we're not able to
Yeah.
meet in person. We've shared that disappointment. We've shared that sometimes anger, not at one another, just anger at the situation. And
Yeah.
I mean, we've been honest about that, and we've had people be honest with us about that. But none of it has been in a way that was antagonistic
Yeah.
or that made us feel like perhaps it wasn't the best decision. I mean, everything has been so supportive. Everyone has been so supportive.
Yeah, I think that true character is really revealed in the hardest of times. And I feel really grateful for the character that was revealed by you all, part of this congregation and this community, because your character has been revealed during this time. And it's been revealed to be of great good and great beauty. And we are just deeply grateful for that. And we don't want to throw shade. We never want to throw shade on others, other churches or anything like that. And you're probably aware of this anyhow. But yeah, we have friends in ministry, and there are folks, fortunately none that I know locally, but folks we know around the country that their churches went back to meeting in person whenever it was not safe to do so. They didn't follow protocols, and that's just not loving their neighbor. And as a result, it makes us feel all the more fortunate to be part of this community. And it's not to say, I mean, obviously we all have, no community is perfect, and we all have ways we can grow, and we need to grow, and we can always try to be better and get better, and we seek to do that. But at the same time, sometimes I want to step back and just be grateful for also what exists. Can we always do better and always be better? Absolutely.
Always.
But it's also nice to be in what I would call a very healthy environment. So this is, I guess, the part of the sermon where we're saying thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
God, I didn't know it was going to get me feeling emotional here. It was a hard year.
Yeah.
I would hate to have gone through this kind of year in a hostile environment.
Yes.
I don't know how I would have, and my heart goes out to those who did have to do that.
Yes.
And the way folks in our congregation would be there for others whenever they're in quarantine or isolation, and we know that we're not out of it yet,
Right.
but hopefully it won't be too long. But you've been there just for each other in ways that just inspire me. I mean, that's what it is. It inspires me.
Something else that I've been thankful for. So not only has 2020 brought this pandemic that we're all experiencing, but it's also, and I don't know if it's because of the pandemic and all of us being in our houses more or whatever, but a lot of eyes have been open to some of the racial injustices. I mean, we know that they're there, right? But the country was galvanized in a way I hadn't seen it galvanized before in my lifetime. I think probably it was galvanized in a similar way during the civil rights movement, when all of a sudden people were seeing these things in their living rooms, like these scenes unfold with the fire hoses being sprayed on those who are peacefully protesting and peacefully marching. So I think it's kind of a similar thing that's happened. There was a captive audience that could see. And I know, there's always work to be done, and there's still work that we need to do. But I know I was thankful to, there were a couple of pop-up protests or marches that happened, and, I would just kind of show up, and every time I saw people from Brentwood there.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I was just really grateful for. Like, we didn't even need to say, hey, Brentwood folk, come out to this. It was just, we just have people in this congregation that are connected enough and have their ears and eyes and hearts open to these situations that just, what can I do to show my support? How can I add my voice to this call? How can I support raising up the voices of those that too many have ignored for so long? And so that was was heartening, and I hope that we continue to engage in that hard, difficult work and those conversations, and more than just the conversations, right? But actually doing the work of bringing about justice. And but so that's another thing that's happened this year that has just really, we've been about that as a church for a long time, but to see it in action in the midst of a pandemic, it was just something that I was grateful for as well.
Yeah, same here. Emily and I, in preparing for our conversation today for this sermon, we were thinking about some things we learned, in 2020, and one of the things that comes to my mind in relationship to what Emily shared was how there are so many individuals who have stepped up and really showed themselves to be people of good character and good faith, have really wanted to do what they can, for the sake of justice and fairness and love in this world. And one of the things that has been a big lesson for me, kind of in a discouraging way, is as we've seen all of those personal efforts, which are really commendable, they are still so often not strong enough to overcome the systems and structures that keep people down. It's like those systems and structures are still even stronger than all of these best personal efforts. And we see the way that has played out in lots of inequity, in the way that resources have been shared, access to care, and in a time of a pandemic with character being revealed, we saw a lot of incredible personal character. But we see so many places where our systems and structures need a lot of help, and we're even seeing it now. As we turn from 2020 into 2021, like locally, to go back to that, we have lots of individuals who want to do good work. But if there are systems and structures that keep driving home inequitable ways of being, that when people are denied access to basic resources, all of the best efforts are not enough to overcome that. And so how can we really learn from some of these lessons of 2020 to where we really try to create systems and structures that set people up for success instead of failure?
Right, yeah.
It's like the weather. Like it would be like if the weather's bad, I don't need to complain to you, Emily. Why am I? This isn't fair. I'm getting rained on. This isn't cool. How could you do this to me, Emily? It's not your fault. The weather's bad.
Outside of my control.
And so, how do we get everything working together in a way that supports and uplifts others? Right. Because we saw in 2020 that there can be an incredible group of people come together, and still all those efforts are not enough.
Yeah. It's a sign that we can all do better. But it's also a sign that it's a hard road. It's so, it feels like 2020. Daunting.
That is so, for the rest of our lives, we're going to be saying, that was so 2020.
Oh gosh, no kidding. No kidding.
So I'm sure everybody's wondering about this awesome shirt I'm wearing.
Yes.
This is a Christmas present that I received from the Munzingers. And it makes zero geographical sense, but I'm a huge fan of the Baltimore Orioles. And the reason, there's something, you can't choose who you love, Whenever I was a kid growing up, the Orioles were really good. And that was before there were a lot of baseball games on TV. And so because Baltimore was really good, they would be on TV a lot. And I loved their uniforms, and I fell in love with the team. I will go to my grave saying that Eddie Murray is the most underrated baseball player of all time. And whenever we make the final edits to this sermon, that part cannot be cut. In fact, I'm going to reiterate it. Eddie Murray is the most underrated baseball player of all time. But you might have noticed, if you follow baseball, Baltimore has not exactly done very well as of late. It used to be like the Cubs and the Red Sox and their curses and such, which have been lifted. But Baltimore fans and others, there are Cleveland fans and such that have not had the greatest of successes in recent memory in terms of World Series championships and all. But I love the shirt for one thing, and so I just had to say thanks to the Munzingers for finding an Orioles jersey for me. That is a very, very, very thoughtful gift and fun. But also, I don't want us to be defined by our failures.
Right.
So like the Orioles have struggled mightily as of late, but I have hope that the Orioles are going to get better. I have hope that as the season turns, as we look toward the future, that something brighter is going to unfold. And there have been a lot of wonderful things that happened in 2020 in the midst of the struggle, and there have been a lot of failures too.
Right.
And I want us to learn from our mistakes.
Right.
And I'm one of those people that I make lots of mistakes. We all make lots of mistakes. We're going to fail at different things, but our failures don't have to define us.
No.
And one of the things I love about the Bible stories is that time and again, the stories center around people who it seemed like had failed over and over and over and over, and they didn't have a chance to do any better in the future. That's precisely when God showed up and helped them create a better future. And so as we come out of such a hard year, I don't want us to be defined by our failures, because God can bring so much good out of our struggles. It doesn't mean God causes the struggles. I'm not saying that at all. But I think God wants to bring as much good as possible out of the struggles.
There's a song that you're going to hear in just a moment.
I'm going to sing it.
Yeah, Phil's going to sing it for you. But, I recorded the music for our worship services a few days ago. And as I was going through the lyrics of this song, it perfectly encapsulates what Phil just said, and basically I think maybe what's kind of weighing on our hearts right now. And sometimes it's easier for us to grasp the words of a song when they're read rather than when they're just sung. So I just want to share these words with you. This is a day of new beginnings, time to remember and move on. Time to believe what love is bringing, laying to rest the pain that's gone. For by the life and death of Jesus, God's mighty Spirit, now as then, can make for us a world of difference as faith and hope are born again. Then let us with the Spirit's daring step from the past and leave behind our disappointment, guilt, and grieving, seeking new paths and sure to find. In faith we gather round the table to taste and share what love can do. This is a day of new beginnings. Our God is making all things new.
May we hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. And now may the sacred spirit made known to us in Jesus Christ go before you to show you the way.
Go behind you to push you into places you would not necessarily go yourself.
Go beside you to be your companion.
And dwell inside you to remind you that you are not alone and that you are loved beyond your wildest imagination.
And may the fire of God's blessing burn brightly upon you and within you now and always. Amen.
God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. Crown thine ancient church's story, bring its bud to glorious flower. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour, for the facing of this hour. All the hosts of evil round us, scorn thy Christ, assail thy ways. From the fears which long have bound us, bring our hearts to faith and praise. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the living of these days, for the living of these days. Cure thy children's warring madness, bend our pride to thy control. Shame our wanton selfish gladness, rich in things and poor in soul. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage, lest we miss thy righteous goal, lest we miss thy righteous goal. Set our feet on lofty places, fill our hearts that we may be strengthened with all Christ thy graces, pledged to set the captives free. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage, lest we feel our call from thee, lest we feel our call from thee. Save us from weak resignation to the evils we deplore. Let thy